Coach talked about playing to your level of standard. Is that something that was set from the beginning of the season, or something that has grown as you guys have had more success this year?
In my opinion, the standard for me has been playoffs. We want to be a postseason team, and since the beginning, this is what I felt like we should be able to do. Some people might have other standards, but that's my standard, and I feel like every night we gotta play to that standard.
What are you seeing?
You know what? This team, you talk about accountability, you talk about learning, you talk about taking that next step forward. And this squad, man, it's not just JB Bickerstaff, but they got other former head coaches like Luke Walton on the staff right now. And the attention to detail that they're playing for these, that they're paying attention to for these players. What's one of the things I told you I've been seeing all season out of Jalen during their practices? They've been messing with them. They've been physical with them. It's no more just going through the motions with the drills, which is what I saw last year. This year, they're like pushing them. And he getting mad. They're like, what? They don't do that to you in the game? You don't get these calls in the game. Back to the line. He's like, all right, give me the ball. Give me the ball. And then he went and he dunked on him. I'm like, bro, I don't know if your coach's knees work like that. Like, be careful. But that, to me, is what I'm seeing out of Jalen Duren. One of the top players in the NBA in terms of dunks per game. He's found himself consistently in the top 5 all season. And we've seen him get better defensively as the season has gone on. And I do believe it's because they're taking to heart and they can trust the criticism that you get from a JB Bickerstaff. You can trust it. And they're taking the time. And to hear him be able to say, y'all was on some softish. I needed to be better. That was on our standard. To hear JB Bickerstaff before that talk about the standard as well. He wanted to say, yeah, he was about to say it was cool that we were able to overcome. And he's like, no, it ain't cool.
Yeah.
We were supposed to go out there and punch them in the face. That, to me, I was like, dang. I was like, no, what is your standard? He's like, I don't know about everybody else, but for me, from the beginning of the season, it's been playoffs. He didn't say play-in. Playoffs.
Yeah.
Playoffs. That's what I'm saying. The growth of this team, man. The growth of this team, especially underneath JB Bickerstaff and the work that we know these players are putting in, man. Like, think about it. Even before Jaden Ivey went down.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, you know what? Keep it going. Point Asar. We didn't
Asar.
call him out. Point Asar.
I love Asar. I've been screaming that.
Man.
Him in this starting lineup has been really, really good.
Said the usage rate is all he needs. He's the perfect player to put next to a Cade Cunningham because, you know what? He can play support. Okay, Cunningham's not in tonight. Okay, cool. I can go back to doing what I was doing with Overtime Elite. That was what? Point Asar.
Yeah.
It's not like he's a stranger to what we saw. But to see these guys actually making the step, we're all talking about just young players right now.
Yeah.
And Cade is still young. It's just like, yo, these guys are impressing me from the coaching staff down to what the players are doing, and they aren't satisfied.
Yep. And I gotta point Asar. I think that other than being super physical with the 76ers and Malik Beasley's onslaught, I think Point Asar was the thing that we were all the most excited about other than that, and maybe the most excited about, period, because it was working. That offense was flowing smoothly like the Mississippi River. And I got to give credit to somebody who has had some questionable takes, and I've called him out for it. In my opinion, questionable takes. We're all entitled. Wheezy D313.
Hey.
Here we go.
Shout out Wheezy.
Loved Point Asar. His brother ain't better. He just get all the usage. You know what, Wheezy? I agree. Fair.
It's fair.
You guys were
It's
a little
fair.
bit earlier to the party than me. I thought it was a little bit disrespectful, at least up until now, to call Asar as good as Amon. But at the same time, Asar, you see what he can be when he gets all of the usage. And we have to remember, too, he was coming back from a blood clot. He got eased in. So now we're really seeing not the totality of his skill set because he's only going to get better because he's so young, but just his impact on games. It's prolific. And Asar Thompson, he deserves a ton of credit. I mean, even if it's just for that one game, and I'm not saying it's been way more than that one game, but seeing a skill set that some of us didn't even necessarily know that he had to that level was a 100% revelation. I know people like Wheezy and you, Koolaid, were a little bit earlier to the party, but consider me arrived at the party.
Well, my opinion was, honestly, it was influenced because of some connections and sources we got at the network that know them personally, played with them, know their work habits, know their workout habits. What was the one thing that we knew there was a difference between the two of them? Both of them work out, but only one of them was considered a gym rat. Both of them were really good, but only one of them was the actual facilitator on the team. That didn't mean that Asar could not go out and be a scorer, but he was a facilitating gym rat. I promise you, just from if I'm a coach or if I'm a guy who wants to play on a connected team like Woo Crew is, I want that guy on my squad. No
Yeah,
diss to
absolutely.
Amon, who can do it all too. He's great too. No slight at him. But just the things that I liked out of Asar Thompson, I saw fully on display. And his ability to be effective, whether he's getting the usage rate or not, is what attracted me to Asar Thompson, the player, a little bit more than Amon, who I think he thrives in when the usage is high. Defensively, those guys are going to do what they do throughout the entire game. But I just like Asar Thompson a little bit more outside of those other situations. And you see it on full display every single game. And then you get to see exactly the full ceiling of a type of player he can be when Cade Cunningham isn't there and he steps into that role, and it looks like he's back at overtime elite running the break.
Yeah, I tell you what, if he become the two-way player that I think that he can become,
Hey, bro, just say
oh
he's
my
becoming.
God,
Just
yeah,
say it.
well, yeah,
Just say
yeah,
it.
we'll say it. Yeah, he's becoming that player because I mean, it's amazing, man. The fact that he's going out there and he can get his own bucket now, because I think that was the biggest thing in the Amon in his game is that Amon is a little more well-rounded offensively. He can go out there and get his own bucket. But now that we're seeing that out of Asar Thompson, combined with the fact that you can deploy him to defend 1 through 5, combined with the fact that he's actually a pretty good playmaker, man, I love this draft pick. I love how he's coming along right now. And that's just the great thing about JB Bickerstaff is you're actually seeing the development in real time. And it's so beautiful to see. That's why I was so glad he wasn't, happy about last night. Yeah, it's cool we got the win, but when you have a young team like that, you have to stay on them and have them learn these lessons even in wins, because there's lessons to take even in wins. So, man, shout out to them, man. They balling right now.
And you know what we saw, too? We talk about wanting to see Schroeder and Cade Cunningham minutes, and we got to see that. Guys, how sexy were the Ron Holland and Asar Thompson minutes? Defensively, they were on it. They were getting into the passing lane. That is when you talk about future, that to me is the future type stuff right there. And you can play them together because they realistically are both very, very versatile players. Asar can realistically play the 1 through the 5. Asar Thompson can realistically play the 1 through the 3. He can, in pinches, try and play the 4, but he got to get the weight up a little bit.
Right.
But to see the progress that he's making, to see the confidence that he has, to see, it was a question that we pondered when Dalton was there, and they went with Holland. But then we brought it back down, and the question that we asked and immediately agreed with was this: if it's just a 3-point shooting that we got away for Ron Holland, is he a hell of a player? And we said, you know what? He is. Defensively, he was able to also, on the offensive side of the ball, handle a high usage. And so it's like to be able to shout out and see how they're able to win with the vets, but also these young players taking that step forward, man. Goodness gracious, is good to see, and that's what I believe is going to bolster this team in the second half.
Yeah, obviously I had some well-known issues with the Ron Holland pick at first, but in my defense, I didn't know that the Pistons and Trajan Langdon would address a lot of the shooting needs with veterans, and Malik Beasley has been an absolute revelation, but I should have tempered my reaction. I will give you that, because Ron Holland, what he's provided to this team in terms of impact defensively and with athleticism, you can't really put a price on that. I think he could potentially give some teams some issues come playoff time if he's in the playoff rotation.
And just so you guys do know, Troy Weaver is the one that had Ron Holland #1 on his draft board, per some sources, some direct sources. It was Troy that actually got that rolling, but Trajan Langdon was like,
Shout out.
Trajan Langdon was like, oh, I do too, though. So,
Right.
it's
So,
like,
hey.
he did too. So he came in and was like, look, this is the pick. And it's interesting to see in those NBA worlds how they actually think about Ron Holland and his coach. Yeah. Shout out one of his trainers, Coach Jay. Rank Management, connected with Ashton and Cannon, those guys. They've come to the studio. They've supported. Got to link up with him out at Summer League and everything. He said it. He believed that he just needed this type of training. Like not just focusing on everything else he was before with school and family, work, and life and all of that.
Yeah.
But now he gets the opportunity to just focus on building up strength, shooting, and then doing the things that you already do good. And we see it working out for him.
Him not in the Rising Stars game is a fucking crime. I just want to state that.
Hey,
for the
look,
record.
bro,
Go ahead,
talk to
Stick.
his
My
pops
bad.
about it.
No, it's fine. Just while we're stroking everybody on the roster, just wanted to throw out Isaiah Stewart.
Yes,
I
yes.
mean, like,
Beef stew,
you know
we
what?
posted
Yes.
a quote on our social media about him saying defense. I love defense.
Yeah.
So much better than last year with Monty Williams. I'm Isaiah Stewart. I'm going to start shooting 3-pointers. I'm going to hang out in in the corner and be your
Preach.
spot-up three-point shooter.
Yeah.
Like, if that's not a microcosm for you putting a square peg in a round hole and Monty Williams not knowing what the fuck he's doing with the people that he has on his
Oh, my
team.
gosh.
Isaiah Stewart coming out and saying that, like, I love defense. That's all you should have ever done when you got in this league, dude. You should have been Ben Wallace 2.0, and that's how we dealt with it. If you can make a shot, cool, but I don't need that out of you. Him trying to learn to shoot three-pointers was the worst coaching decision I've ever seen in my life. But to his credit, he's like, all right, you want to learn to shoot three-pointers? All right, I'll go shoot fucking three-pointers.
And I'm
Like,
okay with him learning to be
Yeah, I don't
serviceable.
think it's the worst decision.
But the
Oh,
way they
what?
use
It
no, 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 no.
shouldn't-
What?
but-
No. The parts.
Hold on, Stick.
No,
Was
the
he ever
parts-
going to be your go-to
no,
guy?
but that wasn't the point, Stick.
No. It's where Stick is right is this. They still have him working on three-point shooting.
Yeah,
and the thing,
like-
but the amount of attempts last year, it was like 6. There was
Exactly,
times he was taking 3 in
that's
the
the
first
point.
quarter.
Right.
You
You
were
shouldn't
removing
rely on
your
that.
paint defender and your paint rebounder from the paint.
And what have I been saying?
Why?
What have I been saying
Why?
the last 3 years? And to Woodward Pistons OGs, y'all know this. I've been saying just let him be your paint defensive version of Corliss Williamson. We knew when Corliss was in there, he was a Tasmanian devil on offense.
Yeah.
It's over for whoever's defending him. It didn't matter if it was a bigger defender, a smaller defender, medium size. It was Corliss going to work in the paint. He was the big nasty. But I believe that Isaiah Stewart, thank you for teeing this up, Stick, was the same type of player from a defensive side. Just let him be a Tasmanian devil in the paint. Let him go in there and just wreak havoc. Who wants to continue to contend with him? Now all of a sudden you're taking your bruiser out of the middle.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden teams can get comfortable in the middle. And what did they look last year? The first 2 or 3 games of the season, when they were being bruisers in the paint, that's when we saw them look their best, sadly, out of all of last season. Then they started having them be perimeter stew, and the physicality and how comfortable players were, guards just skipping all through the lane and just whoop-de-doo layups and such. Do you understand how many times they were able to come in, rest their star, and some backup guard went off on us? I was puking, bro. Desmond Bain, he owned us.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's like this year, though, they're playing so much more physical, and I do believe some of that starts with putting Stu in the paint, because how is Jalen Duren going to learn from your longest tenured Detroit Piston if you're not even having him in the paint? What's Jalen Duren going to learn?
That's real.
I'm just like, man, that's a good point, Stick.
Hey, Koolaid. that technical foul that Stu got last. No, that was so funny. I already knew you had a reaction to it. They said, okay, the contact was unintentional, but because the foul was, I guess, so egregious, they had to call something. I had never heard that ever. So I knew you had a reaction to it. It was hilarious, man.
Bro, have mercy.
I was
These
listening
refs,
to
dog.
Lindsay. I was driving around going to
Shout
the
out
store,
to
picking up
Legend
stuff
Lindsay.
from the store. And, man, Lindsay was going crazy on the play-by-play. So shout out to Lindsay, man, on the radio broadcast.
None of
But-
us know what it is. They were like, it was unintentional. It was a basketball play. This is what happens. But we just feel like we
Yeah,
wanna give
like-
him a technical. What? We don't want to give him a
It's
flagrant.
crazy.
We don't want to throw him out the game, and they knew if he got a flagrant, guess what? He's suspended for the next game.
Right.
So
And it would have been outrage because it didn't warrant that.
But a technical. Do you know how many times I see Cade get hit after plays?
Yeah.
Do you know how many times I see the incidental stuff and Cade is sitting there? Remember, there was a time when Cade was just bleeding all down his mouth, and there was no call. There was nobody who wanted to go and replay anything and say, you know what? We just want to be able to tackle on the technical just to do it. The fact that this happened to the Pistons, I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like, you know what? It's almost the Kirby Joseph effect. You guys are pissing people off. They are. They're playing physical brand of basketball, and you've heard some of the other teams pop up. Oh, they think that that's what they are, but that's us. That's us.
Right.
I don't hear the Indiana Pacers step to the podium and talk that greasy, except for after they play the Pistons, and they're invoking this out of these other teams. And I think JB Bickerstaff wants to smoke.
Yeah,
he
you do.
put his team, bro. He put his team right there on the target. And said, yeah, you know, if this what the Pacers want, this what it is, man. They want to talk like this, and they didn't do that when we beat them, you know.
Right.
And they building, and then the next 2 games, you know what? His team got popped, and JB Bickerstaff was able to use that as a teaching moment, but also to say, no, quit making me look bad.
Right.
I said they were better than the Pacers. JB Bickerstaff stepped to the podium and said it, and then he got popped. And I see this guy still saying no, and the wins and then the losses. Raise your level of standard, man.
Yeah.
Raise where you're going to be at, and I see that out of this team this year, man. It's a beautiful thing to see and to cover.
Yeah. Weezy, once again, I've never hated on Beef Stew. The only thing that I ever said was that he was undersized and that could affect his game. But clearly I was wrong about that. So, you know, I've never said anything negative about Beef Stew.
And honestly, just one more thing to wrap a bow on this when it comes to players who we need to give credit to. yes, it's clear that I was too reactionary when it comes to Ron Holland, and it looks like I'm going to be proven to be wrong. However, here's what I will say. I think
It happens,
the
man.
roster construction, more specifically somebody like Malik Beasley, has allowed somebody like Ron Holland to play more his game instead of needing him to be the shooter that he's not yet. Same with Asar Thompson, and heck, even same with Isaiah Stewart. I agree with you, KG. I'm not mad at them because Isaiah Stewart wasn't a bad three-point shooter last year. They needed somebody, but at the same time,
You can't rely on that, though.
100%.
Yeah,
I
not
do.
6 attempts a
I
game.
do.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I do agree, though, that even though his counting stats, well, they're not counting stats. Their counting stats don't look like they were last year. His impact is much greater in a role that he is almost his instinct dictates that he should play because he just has that instinct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Shout out to the Pistons. You got 2 more games before All-Star break, and it's against the Bulls, the lowly Bulls, in their home. It's a back-to-back. You got to go out there and just straight up punch them. Wait, Warren Feldman. Just punch him in the face. Punch him in the face. That's all I can say, man. Just go out there and punch him in the face. But shout out to the Pistons. They still stay in that 6th place, 6th seed right now. They are 27-26 on the season right now with opportunity to go into All-Star break 29-26.
Told you, even if it's a game, they'll be above 500 at All-Star break.
That's what I wanted, man. And
even if it's one game.
There is no chance they're getting swept by the Bulls. So I agree. They're gonna be at least one game over 500.
And
Honestly,
then,
if I were to make a prediction, I do think they probably split because something tells me that a Kobe White or a Vucevic just like go off game happens. But I could be wrong. Hopefully
that's
I am
last
wrong.
year's Pistons, and if we want to see
Fair.
this team be different, that's
Fair.
where I'm like, you know what? You go out there and pop them.
That's
both
why
games.
I think it's more likely that it's Vucevic than Kobe White. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. You know what, man? Hey, let's get a like poll going as well, and we got to get into the next segment, say what up, though, to some friends, and then we got to we got to